Any living space in your home can add a touch of elegance and depth that can really turn a room's frown upside down. Or maybe you're thinking new cabinet doors. Before you write that check, find out how we can make your ordinary cabinet doors beautiful with a variety of glass insert options that can be easily installed into your existing wood cabinets and make a world of difference. And before you pay for new windows, call us to see if our affordable insulated glass replacement services can't save you a few bucks. This is Stacy Sinks with Less's Glass Service. If it's a new glass shower door, fogged or broken insulated glass replacement, or affordable glass and mirror home decor that you've been looking for, you just can't pass on Less's Glass. Less's Glass Service, serving all of southeastern Wisconsin. Find us at lessglassservice.com.
The reviews are in, and folks seem to like how we do business. And what's more, they can't get over the level of service and real estate expertise they get for far less than what they'd pay an agent from a big-name company. At 3.5 to 3.9%, you'll save up to nearly 50% in commission by choosing a Benefit Realty full-service agent. Everything they do, we do, for up to 50% less. There's no catch. I'm Angela Calais with Benefit Realty, where you pay less for full service. See our success stories at benefit-realty.com. One day, a 3.5 to 3.9% real estate commission structure will be commonplace. But for now, it's not the case. So you can pay 6% for what we can do for about half that, or you can pay less for full service. For some, it's hard to believe, but for our customers, they know it to be true. I'm Angela Calais with Benefit Realty, and our agents understand the meaning of great customer service. And you'll see they're the cream of the crop. So don't pay more than you have to. Pay less for full service with Benefit Realty. Benefit-realty.com.
A cancer diagnosis shouldn't have to mean living without joy or optimism. At the Freighter and the Medical College of Wisconsin Cancer Network, we're pushing to put cancer in its place. By bringing together teams of leading specialists who are pioneering ways to treat every type of cancer, and by unleashing promising new clinical trials. Let's push ahead until every cancer diagnosis is a story of survivorship. To learn more about breakthrough cancer care, visit freighter.com/cancer.
The game is over. Your Bucks postgame show starts now. Welcome to Bucks Talk, insight, analysis, and your chance to sound off on the game you just heard. Now to break it all down, here's your host, Justin Garcia.
Well, probably the Bucks' best win this season, and it's certainly their best win to date. Unless they have a similar comeback in Phoenix on Tuesday night, I don't see, all things considered, I don't see another win touching that this season. When you think about the spot the Bucks were in, down by 24 points at the end of the first quarter, and I mentioned this on the postgame, but it is the 18th time in NBA history that a team has won a game in which they were outscored by 24 or more in any of the four quarters played in that game. Down by 24 at the end of the first quarter, the Bucks looked as dead in the water as it gets. Down by 20 with 2 minutes and 12 seconds left in the first half. And then they go on to score the final 15 points of the half. They make it a 5-point game. And as we heard from Doc Rivers, once we got it to 10, it was a game, and we all felt that. And especially once it was down to 5, it was certainly a game. It would take the Bucks 6 minutes to tie the game in the third quarter. The two teams would trade the lead quite a bit for the close of that third quarter, but the Bucks seemingly had control of the game for most of that fourth quarter. The lead seemed to sit at around 7 or 8 points for the first 5 to 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, and from there, we would see the Bucks start to pull away slowly but surely. And a couple of reasons for that. We will get to that on the show tonight, but I do want to hear your thoughts as we saw one of the things all of you, most of you, I should say, we're calling for loudly last year and for the last few years. Saw quite a few of them. And I don't think it is a coincidence the Bucks won the game with those changes. We'll explain those, but I do want to hear from you as well. 855-616-1620 is the number to join us tonight on Bucks Talk. You see your first win by Doc Rivers on the sidelines for the Bucks. They keep hope alive for a winning road trip, as we heard Chris Middleton catching up with Dave Kane after the game, talking about the importance of that. A loss tonight would have meant that's not possible, number one. But if we're being honest, you lose this game tonight, and especially the way the game started in that first quarter, you're suddenly staring at the possibility, the strong possibility, of an 0-5 road trip, which, given what we're seeing from teams beneath the Bucs in the standings, could have been disastrous. But the way this offense started to find its footing, the efficiency that you saw from your two superstars in this game, and Doc Rivers shared some thoughts on that, but specifically the defense and some of the adjustments we saw from Doc Rivers, but most importantly from this team, from the players and this defensive unit, especially in the second half of this game, to hold the Mavericks to 73 points over the final three quarters of this game. An incredibly impressive win tonight for the Bucs. 855-616-1620, the number to join us tonight on Bucs Talk. I'll tell you what those adjustments were, what stood out the most, and plenty of time to hear from you after this on Bucs Talk.
This is Bucs Talk.
Meet Alan, who was diagnosed with sleep apnea.
I was what they call a mouth breather, and I would breathe at night with my mouth open.
And for about 8 years, Alan struggled with a CPAP machine. And then
I saw the Advent commercial, and I thought, well, what do you got to lose?
Hey, the playoffs are heating up. The big game is ahead, and you can play along for the remainder of the football season. Check out Underdog Fantasy. It's a pick'em game, and it's fast, simple, and fun. Pick between 2 or 5 players in a given game. Select higher or lower on player stats, and if your picks hit, you can win up to 100 times your money in a single night. Yes, it's legal in Wisconsin, and yes, it's a blast to play. I had a great weekend mixing sports, a little bit of NBA, a little bit of football. Marry them together, there you go. I was a winner. You can be too at Underdog Fantasy. Download the Underdog Fantasy app or visit UnderdogFantasy.com and sign up. Use the promo code WTMJ, and Underdog's going to match your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code WTMJ to get your first deposit of $10 or more, up to $100, matched, plus a special pick that you cannot lose on. I'm playing every week. It's easy and fast, and you can join me. It's Underdog Fantasy, promo code WTMJ.
Hey, WTMJ's John Mercure here for one of the very special places in our community. It's Azura Memory Care and Assisted Living. They offer early memory loss classes. They take care of people in your family who have dementia symptoms or other related cognitive declines. I'll tell you what, I've been in their facilities. They're special. They're incredible. I have an aunt who's in a facility. I know what it means to make sure your family's in the right place. That's Azura. It's compassion and empathy. Wisconsin-based and family-owned. It's Azura Memory Care and Assisted Living. AzuraLiving.com.
Welcome back to Bucs Talk.
$129-117, the final in Dallas. The Bucs with a big win over the Mavericks. You avoid an 0-3 start to this very difficult road trip. It's going to be a tough game tomorrow. Now, the Bucs have been one of the better teams in the league on night 2 of a back-to-back. But tomorrow is going to have its set of challenges because, look, the Bucs have not played well in Utah through the years. Utah and Phoenix, the final 2 stops on this road trip, are stops that have not been kind to the Bucs for going on, 3 decades, essentially. Phoenix, it's longer than that. And I know the Bucs snapped that long streak. I believe it was 24 consecutive years that the Bucs had lost in Phoenix to the Suns. They had snapped that quite some time ago, but haven't found a whole lot of success, especially in recent years. And you think about that game, they've had a couple of really good ones. You think about the year that the Bucs would ultimately play the Suns in the finals, coming down to that Giannis shot that he missed at the buzzer just after the All-Star break. But these 2 places are not places the Bucs have found a whole lot of success through the years. So that adds to just how important this game was tonight for the Bucs. And the way that they responded after that first quarter, Doc Rivers talked about that specifically, that we showed a video of all the missed wide-open shots that we had. We showed video of that to the team at halftime. In the first quarter, it really seemed to impact how we played. We didn't do everything great. But we just didn't make any shots in that quarter. So I felt like we could get back into the game. But if I show this team some of that footage of, look, you're missing these shots, those are going to start to fall. And I think that was one of the bigger trends, or themes, I should say, of this game, is you looked at the way the Mavs started the game, and it's easy to say, well, the law of averages, right? Things will start to even out. You'll have that regression to the mean. The Mavs were shooting 70% on threes. They're not going to shoot at that percentage for the duration of the game. The Bucks were shooting 30%. You figured, okay, we're not going to shoot this poorly from the outside for the duration of the game. But you can't rely on that. You have to do some things to jumpstart your offense. You have to do some things to slow theirs down. And that's exactly what we saw. The biggest adjustment, as Doc Rivers talked about this in the postgame, you saw this late in the first half. And I also thought it was interesting to hear the reasoning behind why we saw this change when we saw it. But you saw the Bucks start to trap and blitz. And I mentioned at the top of the show, there's a couple of things we saw tonight that I know a majority of Bucks fans, a majority of you listening, have been calling for years. Why don't the Bucks do this? Why don't the Bucks play defense like this? Why don't the Bucks do some things like this? You saw two of those big things tonight. Number one was part of that trapping and the way that the Bucks did it. And Doc Rivers said, look, we have something that we call it. That's what the team was yelling after the game. But what makes it effective, and we worked on this yesterday, because Bucks did have 2 days off in between this. Granted, it was on the road, but 2 days off. What made this more effective was we were bringing the trap from different spots. It wasn't just the first two guys that were up there, the head of the snake, essentially. It wasn't just, all right, you two are the first up. You're the ones that are going to trap. We were bringing that secondary help from different spots at any given moment. That you could see Luka Doncic, I don't know if I'd say rattled, but you could see Luka Doncic not quite sure where that help was coming from, picking up the ball, waiting to see, okay, is it coming from this side? Is it coming from the strong side? And that slowed down Luka Doncic. It led to some Mavericks turnovers. And the other thing was not just the trap. You saw the Bucks blitz Luka Doncic quite a bit, and Giannis was one of those blitzers. How many times you go back to that first-round series a year ago, and this is not a knock on Mike Budenholzer or Adrian Griffin or any other coach, but at some point, when you start doing one thing one way and it's not working, I understand the logic of you dance with who brought you to the dance. And if this is what we've worked on, this is what we've coached the team to do all season, and in the case of Mike Budenholzer, basically for the last 5 seasons, this is what we do, this is what they're comfortable with, I get not wanting to stray away from that. But at some point, it's not working, and you have to try something different. They did that tonight, where it was, look, anybody but Luka Doncic. And I do really believe one of the things to monitor as we move through the rest of this regular season and hopefully deep into the playoffs is the Bucks' defense against those types of individual talent. We heard Doc Rivers give rave reviews, albeit in a loss, for what he saw defensively in the half court from his team on Monday to start this road trip against the Denver Nuggets, and pointed to Nikola Jokic's stat line of, he had 25 points, but he had a lot of assists, meaning he was looking for other guys, and he needed 25 shots to get to those 25 points. We made him work for everything he did. We tried to take the ball out of his hands. We made him take difficult shots. Doc Rivers touched on that before the game tonight and said, look, I think with Luka Doncic and any type of player like that, he's hard to guard. But the big thing is, he's going to score. And it's not just Luka. You're going to see it in a couple of days with Devin Booker, with Kevin Durant. They're going to score. You don't want to foul them. You don't want them to get points from the free throw line and slow down the game that way. You want those types of stat lines where he's going to get 25, 28, 30 points. We understand that. We want him to take 25, 28, 30 shots to get to those points. And I thought the Bucks slowly started to get there over the course of the final 3 quarters. 26 shots for Luka on those 40 points. Not quite. Not the most efficient game. It wasn't a terrible game for Luka Doncic. But over the course of those final three quarters, and especially in the second half, that defense was making Luka Doncic work for everything he was getting. And that blitz, right, to say, look, anybody but Luka, it can work in games like this. You can't do that against the Phoenix Suns, assuming you're going to have Bradley Beal and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant on the floor. You couldn't do it against the against the Denver Nuggets because you still had Jamal Murray out there. You still had Aaron Gordon out there and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope who can hit shots. So you have to pick your spots where you do this. But it was a perfect opportunity tonight when there was no Kyrie Irving, Dante Exum, another starter, out of the lineup tonight. It was basically Luka Doncic. You still have shooters out there, but when you looked up and down the roster, when you looked out there on the floor, I think Doc Rivers clearly felt comfortable saying anybody but Luka. We don't care if Josh Green hits a ton of threes. If Tim Hardaway Jr. is hitting threes, fine. Luka Doncic is not going to be. 4 of 12 from 3 in this game. The Bucks were blitzing him, taking the ball out of his hands. Again, that blitzer was different at times. But we saw Giannis taking on that assignment as well. Two of the biggest things we have heard Bucks fans call for years. You saw tonight from Doc Rivers, throwing different looks and saying, get the ball out of that star's hands. Everything you were calling for against the Miami Heat in the playoffs a season ago. Get the ball out of Jimmy Butler's hands. Anybody but Jimmy Butler. You saw that tonight, and you saw Giannis taking on that challenge. Chris Middleton was the primary defender on Luka Doncic. But on switches, on late switches, on some of those blitzing opportunities, we saw Giannis taking on that assignment and waving off the help on Luka Doncic. So a lot to like about the defense, and we didn't even touch on the transition defense. That's what Doc Rivers left this game most impressed with. When he was asked if there was anything you saw tonight that you'd want to bottle up, that this is the way I envision this team playing, what stood up most to you? Transition defense. After the first quarter, we were excellent in transition. We got under the ball for 3 quarters. That forced other teams. If we can do this, it forces other teams to play against our size. And look, one of the things that backs that up statistically, 12 turnovers, not terrible, not great. 12 turnovers for the Bucks, only 4 points that the Mavericks scored off of that. They were getting back in transition and getting those stops that had evaded them all of this season. And that's one of the bigger things. If you can clean that up, 2 of the biggest things we talked about, rebounding, continue to improve there, and transition defense. If you can clean that up, that's going to go a long way in moving the needle for your overall defense. And tonight would be what you would point to for that argument. 855-616-1620, the number to join us tonight on Bucks Talk. We'll take a look at, I mentioned the struggles the Bucks have had in Utah and Phoenix. We'll take a look at the history of that series on the road coming up after this on Bucks Talk.
You're listening to Bucks Talk. WTMJ, W277CV, and WKTI HD2 Milwaukee from the Annex Wealth Management Studios. This is News Radio WTMJ, a Good Karma brand station.
AccuNet Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS ID 255368.
Flimsy, feeble, flaccid. That's how you can describe most pre-approval letters these days. Heck, a lot of big banks issue pre-approval letters using soft credit pulls instead of real credit reports. Do you really want to compete in today's still low inventory market with a soft credit pull and a pre-approval that's silent on 2 of the 3 critical elements of a mortgage approval? A rock-solid guaranteed pre-approval from AccuNet not only verifies your credit with a real credit report, we also verify your income and down payment, and then issue a letter with a $2,000 guarantee to back it up. And now, AccuNet is issuing property-specific pre-approvals that often come with this sweet phrase, no appraisal required. That's right, AccuNet may be able to issue your pre-approval at or above the seller's asking price without needing an appraisal. Today's home market is still a metaphorical knife fight. Your bank is offering you, well, a pocket knife. AccuNet is Crocodile Dundee. Now that's a knife, mate. Click on the blue button today at accunet.com.
It's here on consignment from over 10,000 nationwide partners. From very high-end, distinctive furniture, unique antiques and original art, to tasteful home decor that can fit almost any budget. Premium home decor priced right. at 25 to 40% off retail prices. This is Katie with Design Exchange, where discerning buyers with discriminating tastes come to find premium home decor at a value. Design Exchange in Heartland and Pewaukee.
Design Exchange.
Smart interior designers know that what they'll see here is going to be almost impossible to find anywhere else, especially at our consignment prices. Premium home decor that's gently loved and close to new. And what we carry can raise the wow factor of anyone's home decor. This is Katie with Design Exchange, where discerning buyers with discriminating tastes come to find premium home decor at a value. Design Exchange in Heartland and Pewaukee.
Design Exchange.
Skilled trade workers are the backbone of every community and also the Army National Guard. Soldiers trained to keep the power flowing, engines running, and in every other trade needed to accomplish the mission. These soldiers are on the fast track to learning skills that can set them up for success at home with companies looking to hire the best. Their resumes are being built through their paid training and part-time service. Find out how you too can learn a trade profession by visiting NationalGuard.com. Sponsored by the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Aired by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
The Roundball Repartee returns. This is Bucks Talk.
Bucks win in Dallas. A big, big game. Look, we mentioned what the Bucks did differently defensively. That's what you want to take most from this game is you can see what's possible if that team can play like this. And I'll point this out, too. I don't think the way that they played, some of those strategies, I don't think that's a 48-minute thing because it's also worth pointing out you were able to do some of that. And, again, this is not to take away from what he brings, but you were able to do a lot of that. The blitzing and the essentially switching everything. And that's the other thing. Not to get off track here, but the Bucks were really locked in defensively in the second half, but really for those 3 quarters. They were playing on the string with their rotations and their switches. You're able to do that because Brook Lopez wasn't on the floor. And you started Robin Lopez. You didn't play him after the first 4 minutes that he was out there on the floor. You trimmed down the rotation. You were playing with Giannis at the 5 for a lot of this. Mavs are a smaller team. They allow you to do that. Maxi Kleber's their 5. He's going to stretch the floor more than anything else. But you were playing with Giannis, with Bobby Portis out there, with Giannis alongside either Bobby Portis or Jay Crowder. You can't really do all of those things with Brook Lopez on the floor because of the way that he plays. And this isn't to say, well, this is all the information you need to say, hey, it's time to move on. There are still some things you need from Brook Lopez. But this was the perfect matchup for the Bucks and the perfect scenario with no Kyrie Irving and no Brook Lopez and the Bucks playing smaller themselves for you to employ some of these things. I mentioned, though, let's not let this get lost in the shuffle either. Damian Lillard was incredible tonight. Giannis is going to get the attention, 48 points, 10 assists, 20 of 28 shooting. But Damian Lillard, again, after a very, very rough month of January, where Dame's numbers well below his season averages and well below his career averages. Wasn't a good month for Dame offensively. I think in turn you saw the Bucks. A lot of things did not go their way, but this team, as we mentioned after the Blazers game, you're predicated on your offense. You are going to be an elite offensive team. If you're not getting that from one of the biggest pieces of that offense and your defense is already vulnerable, it's going to cause problems. And that's what we saw in January when the Bucks went 8-8. They had a bottom 10 defense. They had an offense that was outside of the top 10. Damian Lillard's struggles were a big part of that. So to see Dame start the month the way that he did with the team winning is certainly very encouraging. 10 of 11 shooting. 5 of 5 on his threes. 30 points. 8 assists. Doc Rivers talked about that after the game as well, that he made all the right reads. He and Giannis. Neither of those two guys were forcing anything, which is crazy in a game where they combined for 78 points. To think they did that, playing in the flow of the game, letting things come to them. That was a big part of the game. When you think about some of those plays that the Bucks ran up, we saw more and more. And again, this was another thing we touched on that I would assume. Fixing the transition defense, continuing to get better on the boards, but in terms of what we can take big strides forward in, transition defense, and how do we juice that two-man game with Giannis and Damian Lillard? How do we maximize Damian Lillard? Those are the two biggest things you would assume were staring Doc Rivers in the face when he took over this job. And tonight you saw both of them really turn around. Now you got to continue to move it forward. You got to sustain it. But for one game, both of those areas worked very, very well. 78 combined points from that duo and 30 of 39 shooting to get there. 7 of 10 on their threes. That duo was incredible, and that shows you what is possible for this group when you have them playing at that level and you have your defense coming up with some big stops as well. Tomorrow, though, it does not get any easier as the Bucks head to Utah to take on the Jazz. The Bucks have played in Utah 54 times in franchise history. On the road against the Jazz, I should say, because some of that is New Orleans way back when. But they have not found a whole lot of success against the Jazz. 45 of those matchups were in Utah, road games. But all told, on the road, the Bucks have won 19 games against the Jazz. New Orleans or Utah, 19 wins. That is it. 5 of those came when the Jazz were in New Orleans. 14 wins in the state of Utah. Now, you've won 2 consecutive games there. Last year it was a blowout. The year before, a tight one that the Bucks eked out. But you had a couple of ones that went down to the wire. I think we all remember in 2019, this was the final game before that 18-game win streak where Bojan Bogdanovic hit the game-winning three as time expired. You lose 103-100. That was part of a 19-year drought in Utah against the Jazz. Now, you've won 2 straight games, but 2 out of 21 is not the success that you're striving for. Prior to that 19-game skid, Bucks won 3 straight games. But prior to that, a 10-game losing streak in Utah. So not a whole lot of success for 3+ decades that the Bucks have had in Utah against the Jazz. And it is a very, very similar story in Phoenix against the Suns, where, again, you did win last year. But prior to that, 4 straight losses. Then you had 4 straight wins. But before that, the very, very long losing streak in Phoenix, where you had to go all the way back to 1987 as the last time the Bucks had won there. Prior to that win in 2017, which was the game where Jabari Parker blew out his knee, it's been a very spotty record of success in Phoenix and in Utah. And look, every team is different every year. But for whatever reason, those 2 buildings have been houses of horrors for the Bucks. So that adds to the difficulty of this road trip. And that's what left you feeling, I don't know if I'd say dejected, but very, very disappointed with what you saw against the Portland Trailblazers earlier in the week, because you never want to overlook any opponent. But I'm sure that was a game I know Bucks fans had circled of. We know we'll get this one. If you could get 2 of the other 4 games, that would be great to go 3-2 on the road trip. Chris Middleton himself said, we want to go above 500 on this road trip. You got to win your final 2 games, though. And those are going to be challenging because of the track record in both of those stops. But because tomorrow is night 2 of a back-to-back against a young Utah Jazz team, and because the final game of this road trip is against a Phoenix Suns team, very similar to the Bucks, starting to figure some things out, play much, much better in the Western Conference, and they have started to ascend in the standings up to 6th now in the West. Remember, they were right around 500, and now 28-21, just a game back of the Sacramento Kings for the 5th spot in the Western Conference. 855-616-1620 is the number to join us tonight on Bucks Talk. I mentioned the Bucks have been very good on night 2 of a back-to-back. We'll give you the numbers that back that up as well as the show continues after this.
The Hardwood Homilies continue after this. This is Bucks Talk.
I haven't had anything to eat for days, and being hungry hurts.
Going without oil changes can destroy your engine, but it doesn't compare to the effect of going without food. That's why the Automobile Dealers Association of Metro Milwaukee is determined to make sure no one goes to bed hungry. Through the end of February, they'll donate $1 from every oil change to Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin. Every dollar provides 3 healthy meals. Over the past 13 years, Adam has donated over $820,000, providing more than 2.4 million meals to people across southeastern Wisconsin, the majority being children and seniors. And with today's ongoing challenges, the need is greater than ever. So help the hungry while helping your vehicle. Get your oil changed by Adam Dealer Factory Train Techs at a price as low or lower than independent shops. Visit an Adam member dealer near you.
For a list of participating dealers, visit adamm.com.
Family owned and operated. Yep, we sure are. Since 1970. And I know you've probably heard it a million times. But the words family owned and operated hold a lot of water. They mean you can count on dealing with an expert. Because when your dad runs the show, he teaches you all that he knows. They mean prompt service. Because it's not just our job, it's a big part of our life. They mean you're actually working with someone who has accountability and a real interest in your satisfaction and their business's overall success. So when you hear businesses say the words family owned and operated, give them a try, because small business owners like us really do have your best interest in mind. And when you need advice from southeastern Wisconsin's foremost glass experts, call me. This is Stacy Sinks with Less's Glass Service. If it's a new glass shower door, fogged or broken insulated glass replacement, or affordable glass and mirror home decor that you've been looking for, you just can't pass on Less's Glass. Less's Glass Service, serving all of southeastern Wisconsin. Find us at lessglassservice.com.
St. Vincent de Paul, Milwaukee has expanded into our new 76th and Bradley Road location, where thrifters will find hundreds of bargains on everything, from clothing to furniture, electronics, home goods, and more. Our inventory is always changing, and new deals pop up every day. We're accepting donations too at our convenient drive-through donation area. Help us help others. St. Vincent de Paul at 76th and Bradley Road in Milwaukee is now open.
Ooh, you're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul.
This is Bucks Talk.
$129-117, the final in Dallas. The Bucks beat the Mavericks. And again, 73 points that you held the Mavs to over the final 3 quarters of this game after giving up 44 in the first quarter. I mentioned the job that they did on Luka Doncic to try to take the ball out of his hands more. And this was interesting because of all the bumps that Luka took in this game. Twisted that ankle, kind of got caught underneath him early in this one. And it didn't look worst case scenario, but the way that it looked and the fact that Giannis was clearly concerned for Luka Doncic and never even left half court and kind of stayed by Luka over the course of that play had you wondering, knowing Luka was dealing with ankle soreness on that exact same ankle coming into the game, or are we even going to see Luka Doncic finish this game? He came back moments later and went 4 of 7 in the opening quarter, 5 of 9 in the second quarter. But the way that defense adjusted to him in the third quarter, 0 of 3 on his threes, 2 of 7 from the field, and only took 3 field goal attempts in 11 minutes of play in the fourth quarter, which goes back to that point that Doc Rivers made of, against those types of guys, they're going to get their points. But we want to make it difficult, where it's either a high number of points and a high volume of shots, or what you saw in the fourth quarter, where Luka Doncic only took 3 field goals because of the looks that he was getting and the way the Bucks were shading him. That was a big part of this game. And a big reason behind the Bucks' success in this one. I mentioned the road trip does not get any easier. You know what's in front of you with the Phoenix Suns, with Kevin Durant, with Devin Booker, with Bradley Beal, with the offense that the Suns bring. And tomorrow night in Utah, where we just went through the struggles the Bucks have had on the road against both the Jazz and the Suns. It is night 2 of a back-to-back. I think we're all going to be hitting refresh on the NBA injury report early tomorrow to see what the status is of Chris Middleton. It's been, I believe, 2 straight sets of back-to-backs now where we have not seen Chris Middleton play on the second night of the back-to-back. This after we saw it, I believe, 1 or 2 times earlier in the season. But the last few, it hasn't been there. And this is the other part of it is this is a stretch where I believe it's 5 games in 8 days that the Bucks are going to be playing here. So that's a lot. But the Bucks have been very good in those spots so far this season. One of the best teams in the league, as a matter of fact. On night 2 of a back-to-back, the Bucks are 6-1. They have the second-rated offense in those games. Defense right around the middle of the pack, where you would expect from them. So the numbers bear out to what their season averages are, but they've won 6 of 7 games on night 2 of a back-to-back this season. Only the Boston Celtics have a better record at 7-2. The Bucks are 6-1. The Suns are 6-2 on those games. The Nuggets and Blazers have also won 6 games on night 2 of a back-to-back, though they've done them on 9 tries. The Bucks 6-1 on night 2 of a back-to-back. And tomorrow, the hope is that improves to 7-1. If you do that, it'll be 3 straight wins in Utah after you went a stretch of 19 consecutive years having not won there. And you will have yourself set up for a chance at a 3-2 road trip, which, again, the optics of that, if you win tomorrow, and the total 180 from where it was on Wednesday after that loss to the Portland Trail Blazers and the way the Bucks looked in that game, there was a lot to factor into it. I don't know if you can say the Bucks overlooked the opponent, but there was a lot of emotion in that game as well. You had Damian Lillard giving a press conference in the same room. Doc Rivers and Chauncey Billups spoke before the game. You had Damian Lillard doing the same thing, addressing the media, talking for about 20 minutes and fielding questions about what it was like for him to return to Portland, to walk past the home locker room, to go into the road locker room, almost go into the home locker room, the confusion that he had, to be back in the city of Portland where he played for 11 years, to be back around his family, too. And Dame, again, in the last couple of days, addressed that even more, talking about everything he's going through off the floor, how close he is to his family, how important that is to him to be going through a divorce and to have your family all the way on the other side of the country in Portland while you're playing in Milwaukee. All of this stuff has weighed on him this season, and I think we could see that at times. So it was a very, very emotional and strange day and game for the Bucks Wednesday in Portland. The way this game started, I think all of us were fretting the worst-case scenario for this team on this road trip. But now you have a chance to completely turn that around after these final 3 quarters tonight, and with a win tomorrow night to even things up at 2-2 and a chance at a winning road trip if that is the case. I mentioned how much things have started to change in the standings, and that's the other thing to point out. What made tonight important for the Bucks? We'll get to that and take a look at the updated standings as we get you set for the Bucks and the Utah Jazz tomorrow night. We'll do that as we wrap up Bucks Talk after this.
This is Bucks Talk.
Replacement windows and doors. Where do you start? Siding Unlimited is where. Why? Well, you know about Siding Unlimited's Contractor of the Year awards from Pella, right? But Siding Unlimited offers many other choices too. Wood, vinyl, fiberglass, traditional, contemporary. Siding Unlimited will work with your style and your budget. And whatever choices you make, be assured that Wisconsin's climate extremes will stay out there to look at, not inside to bother you. So, start with Siding Unlimited. Local, family-owned, honest and reliable, knowledgeable and skilled. And lots of options, too. You want windows, but think siding. Siding Unlimited. Wisconsin's best. America's best. SidingUnlimited.com.
In this seller's market, even homeowners are trying to sell their own home. But more times than not, it doesn't work out like they'd hoped. And while homes like theirs are selling, and selling fast for over asking prices, their homes aren't. So what's your next best strategy? Well, if you're looking to relieve yourself of the stress of selling your own home and still get top dollar while getting the full service benefits that an experienced realtor can give you, then look no further. I'm Angela Calais with Benefit Realty, where 3.5 to 3.9% commission assures that you pay less for full service. Only 11% of those trying to sell their own homes actually succeed. And of those that do sell their own home, they sell on average for 26% less than agented properties. This often negates the savings they were hoping to get by doing it on their own. So why do it on your own when you have an experienced realtor that will give you full service at only 3.5 to 3.9% commission? Don't let your home sit while others are selling faster and at potentially better than asking prices. Call Benefit Realty for a highly experienced agent, and you'll pay less for full service.
Heart disease won't stop us. Diabetes, allergies, cancer. Nothing will keep the Freighter and the Medical College of Wisconsin Health Network from pushing Wisconsin ahead. We're constantly raising the bar for medical excellence and providing more ways to receive it, so you have it for all your health needs, big and small. Let's push ahead, and we'll make life here as great as it can be. Visit Freighter.com to find out how.
Welcome back to Bucks Talk.
Bucks beat the Mavericks, their best win of the season, down by 24 points at the end of the first quarter. It is only the 18th time in the 77 years of the NBA that a team has won a game in which they were outscored by 24 or more points in any of the four quarters. A big win, not only to get Doc Rivers' first win as the head coach of the Bucks, to get in the win column on this 5-game road trip and still give yourself a chance at a winning road trip, but a big win given what's going on in the Eastern Conference. So as we sit here now, with all games completed today, you are still 4 games behind the Boston Celtics for the top seed in the East, but the Cleveland Cavaliers and New York Knicks are both on your tail. The Cavs are 31-16, just a half game back of you, and you have split the season series. The Knicks are 32-17, a game and a half back of you. The Cavs is remarkable because you think about Cleveland after they had back-to-back losses against the Bucks and in Toronto against the Raptors. To wrap up the calendar year, and I believe the Raptors game is January 1, they were 18-15 after that happened. They're 31-16 now, a 13-1 run. They were incredible in the month of January, only losing 2 games. One of those came on New Year's Day. The other was to the Bucks in late January. Then you had the Knicks, who, very similar story to the Cavs at one point, 17-15. Then the calendar flipped to January, and oh, by the way, you acquired OG Anunoby. In the games played since then, the Knicks have lost 3 times, 32-18. Conversely, you have the 76ers, who seemed like they were going to be moving past the Bucks, potentially catching the Boston Celtics. But now the 76ers have all of a sudden dropped 5 of their last 6 games. And they have the news of Joel Embiid reportedly with a tear in his meniscus. How severe it is, who really knows? It sounds as though we could get a decision as early as Monday whether or not Joel Embiid will undergo surgery on that meniscus. If that is the case, you would have to assume he is going to be out for a majority of what's left in the regular season. But more importantly, you look at what Giannis did tonight. You look at where the Bucks are in the standings. He may have kickstarted his case for a 3rd MVP because you got to assume Joel Embiid is out of that race now. He has already missed 14 games, and by rule, you can only miss 17 games to still be eligible. So maybe the door opened for Giannis, and it's going to be difficult for the Bucks to hold off those 2 teams behind them. Tomorrow night in Utah, it's the Bucks and the Jazz. It is a 7 o'clock tip-off. 6:30 is when our pregame coverage begins. And as always, be sure to stick around after the game for Bucks Talk.
Your nose is for breathing. Your mouth is for eating. And if you're breathing through your mouth, it's not because your body wants to. It's because it has to, because your nose isn't working properly. And although you've lived like this, it's no way to live, and it's having a significant impact on your life. I know you know this, and I know that taking action isn't always convenient. But at Advent, we've done all we can to make changing your life for the better as easy as possible. I'm Dr. Madan Kandula. With tens of thousands of our patients, a thorough breathing triangle evaluation, along with a simple 20-minute in-office procedure called balloon sinuplasty, has opened their nasal passages, allowing them to breathe freely through their nose for good. And there's a good chance this procedure can do the same for you. We'll help you breathe through your nose again, and it will change your life.
Go to adventknows.com to schedule your appointment, because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better.
Starlight Children's Foundation brightens the lives of sick kids like my son Finn, who was born with congenital heart disease. Learn more about Starlight by visiting starlight.org today.
They were talking about doing a few things to spruce up their home, and I knew where they were coming from. Sometimes you don't even realize it, but then it hits you. You've had the same look in your home forever. And that's why Jan and Bob came to see me. And I told them they came to the right place. Because here, you'll find a bunch of choices to spruce up your home for less. They had a stone fireplace with empty walls on either side. I suggested glass shelves. She hated their old bathtub, so I showed her our glass shower door displays. They had kind of a small living room, so I thought strip mirrors would really open it up. And after we priced out my suggestions, they were surprised at the bottom line. Wait till they see their home after we're through. This is Stacy Sinks with Less's Glass Service. If it's a new glass shower door, fogged or broken insulated glass replacement, or affordable glass and mirror home decor that you've been looking for, you just can't pass on Less's Glass. Less's Glass Service, serving all of southeastern Wisconsin. Find us at lessglassservice.com.
Hey, the playoffs are heating up, the big game is ahead, and you can play along for the remainder of the football season. Check out Underdog Fantasy. It's a pick'em game, and it's fast, simple, and fun. Pick between 2 or 5 players in a given game, select higher or lower on player stats, and if your picks hit, you can win up to 100 times your money in a single night. Yes, it's legal in Wisconsin, and yes, it's a blast to play. I had a great weekend mixing sports, a little bit of NBA, a little bit of football. Marry them together, there you go. I was a winner. You can be too at Underdog Fantasy. Download the Underdog Fantasy app or visit UnderdogFantasy.com and sign up. Use the promo code WTMJ, and Underdog's going to match your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code WTMJ to get your first deposit of $10 or more, up to $100, matched, plus a special pick that you cannot lose on. I'm playing every week. It's easy and fast, and you can join me. It's Underdog Fantasy, promo code WTMJ.
200-6895.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
So if anybody's been scrolling social media, there is a check-in, a mental health check-in from none other than Elmo. Elmo was on Twitter. Elmo is, of course, the little red monster. He's a puppet from Sesame Street. And he tweeted out, Elmo's just checking in. How's everybody doing? And this check-in from Elmo got a lot of interesting reaction because it underscored the mental health crisis that some are calling it in the United States. Now, I don't know if we have a mental health crisis or not. I think most of my life, I've always referred to most of the people around me as being nuts. So I don't know if it's a crisis or if that's the norm for me. But very interesting that Axios, the reporter there, picked up on this. And they're pointing out that the reason this matters is because the responses to Elmo's post were estimated to be seen by 140 million users. And they're saying this underscores a growing concern for mental health in the United States. And they're saying there's a national spike in anxiety and depression. Now, that I totally believe. I don't know if it would be called a crisis. Maybe it is. But I know that's happening because we discussed that straight through COVID, and it didn't go away for a lot of people. with young people driving most of the rise in mental health spending in recent years. Now, spending in the country on mental health with private insurance has surged during the pandemic, and they're finding, the Gallup poll has found that in 2023, 23% of U.S. adults visit a mental health professional as compared to 13% back in 2004. So people are either getting